Welcome to East Coast Believers Church Lake Nona. Thank you for joining us today. We would like to invite you to one of our services at 12253 Lake Nona Gateway Boulevard inside Village Park Elementary. We start at 10 a.m. For more details on time and location, please visit our website at www.eastcoastbelievers.org. Today, Pastor Rich starts a whole new series called Life on Purpose. Please stay with us all the way through the end of the message for some more important announcements. Now, here's Pastor Rich.
I'm really excited that you're here today at the start of a new series that I'm calling Life on Purpose. And the reason I decided to do a series like this is because God had been dealing with me. He'd been working on my heart about some areas of my life that I just knew were not being done intentionally and on purpose. How many of you have areas of your life that you're like, man, I did not want to end up here. How did I get here? Like, have you ever asked this question like, man, what is my purpose here? What am I doing, right? Like, or maybe you've asked like, how did I end up here? Now, not here so much in this building. I know how you ended up here. But nevertheless, at some place in your life, have you ever looked at your life and been like, was not my plan? Like, this is not what I saw in high school when I threw that tassel thing up in the air and caught it and was like, life's going to be great. And then life was like, ha-ha. It just is. It just does. It happens to us. It happens to all of us, right? It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for us to ask these questions, right? It's not uncommon for us to wonder, is the path I've taken the one I'm supposed to be on? And the even question, did I make the choices I should have made? Did I end up where I was supposed to end up? And I think at some point, every one of us in some area of our life, some way, shape, or form, we've all drifted away from the things that we would say truly matter to us. And we've allowed portions or parts of our life to go in directions that maybe don't align with our highest values and passions. Or maybe for us there's times where it can feel like you're just not living up to the fullest potential of one area or multiple areas of your life. And you know, somewhere deep in your gut, you know God has more for you. You know you're capable of doing more and living more. You know it. It's not that you know it because it's your ego. It's something inside of you telling you, this ain't it. There's more for you. And it can be disheartening as time passes by. The farther away we get from our highest values, the farther away we get from what we think we should have done or where we think we want to be, or when we look out at the landscape of our life and we go, this is not what I drew when I was a little kid. Where's the sunshine and rainbow? I had a unicorn in my backyard in my picture. Where's my unicorn? And whatever that is for you, right? It can be disheartening. And when you haven't taken steps toward those things that truly matter to you, and you know deep inside that there's parts of your life you know you're not living on purpose. I think all of us can say that. And I think this is why I believe it's so crucial to know that living intentionally means taking ownership of your lives, setting a direction and driving purposely toward a definite destination. It means aligning ourselves with the will of God and living in accordance with our highest values and passions so that we're not merely swept away by aimless wandering and living adrift. And we can take charge and steer our life in the direction that aligns with what and how God has created us to live. Did you know this? That the average lifespan in America is 78 years old. You know, that's only 936 months. Now, that sounds like a lot, 936 months. But you got to remember this. We spend a third of our life sleeping, asleep. That means you actually only have, on average, about 50 years of time to do the things you actually want to do and take intentional action on your life. Now, that's not including, if you will entertain me for a moment, the 92 days that the average American spends using the bathroom. 6 months if you're a married man with 3 daughters. You know what? I don't even know if that statistic was made after the iPhone, because I'll be honest with you. Some of y'all, your legs have fallen asleep in there. And you know why you're laughing right now. You tried getting up, and it didn't work out. I shouldn't have sent them memes. That's why I don't be using nobody's phone, man. You just never know where that thing's been. Thank goodness we got a clean, sanitized baptism tank. Amen? Don't bring your phone. Don't bring your phone, man. After I read that statistic, I was like, I ain't never using no one's phone again. I'll be stranded. You could call the Uber for me. Thank you. Listen, living your life on purpose is challenging in a world full of distractions. It's hard. We're offered this huge selection of competing priorities, entertainment. Listen, you ever try to find something on Netflix and then just quit after 30 minutes? You know why? There's too much. If they had 4 movies, you'd watch one of them. There's 4,000. The human brain can't handle it. We're just like, ugh. That's what happens in our life when we find ourselves adrift. It's easy to get distracted and just keep drifting. It's easy to not be intentional in a world that offers so many options to keep you stuck right where you are. And the next thing you know, 20, 30, 40 years of your life have gone by and you still haven't accomplished the things deep in your heart you know you want to. It's easy. That black hole of life and time known as social media, which allows us to travel down a road called absolutely nowhere. How can we stay true to our deepest values and purposes? How can we avoid getting sidetracked? The answer is this: by being intentional in every aspect of our lives, from the goals we set to the way we spend our time, to the way we spend our resources, to the people we invest in and that we allow to invest in us. By prioritizing what truly matters and eliminating the things that don't align with our values, our faith, our relationship with God, our goals. And in doing that, we can live life on purpose. We can have the life that God desires for us. If you're here today and after I just read all that, you realize you're the 6-month guy on the toilet versus the 3-month guy, I'm here to tell you right now, you are not stuck. You don't have to stay where you are. There's always a road back to where God wanted you to be. You can live your life on purpose. And over the course of this series, we're going to explore what it means to do this, what it means to be on purpose, how to align ourselves with the will of God and get an idea of the importance of setting our intentions, the role of our faith and our values in shaping our decisions, and finding a direction and taking action to intentionally live a life in which we purposefully pursue our potential and walk out the life that God calls us to live. How's that sound to you? All right. Well, you know I always got to tell a story, right? So, thank you, sir. I want you to talk back, just not like that, okay? You just throw out a little amen or something here. And keep your kids in check. No, I'm just... you know what I'm grateful for? I'm grateful for a congregation of people that get me. Like, because if you don't get me, man, you are a last-time visitor. I promise you that. That's why I get excited about the second-time visitors. I told y'all, first-time visitors, not a miracle. Anybody can go on Google. You come back, dang. You get me. You get me. Listen, as I was writing this series, I thought of this story. I had this memory of this time, my mom picked me up to go to this amusement park just outside of Buffalo, New York called Darien Lake. Is anybody familiar? All right, yeah, we got some New Yorkers up in here because they had to move. Had to move to the free state of Florida. Darien Lake. Darien Lake was the spot. In the 80s and 90s, listen, it's like one level up from Fun Spot in Kissimmee. You know what I mean? Like it's up there. It had roller coasters. Six Flags bought it at one point. I mean, it was a major thing. It was fun. Loved it. Been there dozens of times. My mother, on the other hand, she never went. Like, she don't like rides. She don't even fly. And she always complaining about, how come the kids don't see me? I'm like, because you don't fly in airplanes, and it takes you 24 hours to get here. That's why. Well, my mom and I, we lived in Syracuse, New York. Syracuse, New York is about 2.5 hours from Buffalo, from where Darien Lake is. So she one day gets this idea. She's got this intention. I want to go take my boy to Darien Lake. He loves it there. I want to take him. I want to experience it with him. I want him to have some fun. So she goes, come on, we're going to Darien Lake this morning. Woo! I lost my mind. You know what I mean? I'm like, yes! It's just me and her. So we get in the car, and we get on what's known as the New York State Thruway. Way better than 417, let me tell you something. It is not I-4. I tell you this is a straight road. It's going to take you east, or it's going to take you west. That's it. There is no other option. Can you go south on the New York State Thruway? You cannot. You have to get off of it. It only goes east and west. Well, from Syracuse, Buffalo, New York, west. My mom drove east. Now, look, I'm like 12, all right? I don't drive, but we weren't iPad kids back in the day, so we paid attention to the scenery around us. And I was fully aware. I'm like, Mom, this isn't the right direction. Yes, it is. I asked the guy at the toll booth. I'm like, no, he gave you bad directions, Ma. Now, we didn't have a map either. Now, for those of you who are under 30, a map was this piece of paper we used to have. And it had this elaborate drawing of the road systems of where you were. It was incredible. Da Vinci. I mean, it was artwork. It didn't talk to you, but it worked, boy. Dora was ahead of her time. Nevertheless, we didn't have a map, and we had bad directions. We drove an hour and a half the wrong way. So finally, my mom began to believe me, and she said, okay, we're going to turn back. We had to turn back around, drive an additional hour and a half, then the 2.5 hours to Darien Lake. But we went, and we had fun, but I learned a lesson that day. I learned a lesson. Number one, don't follow Mom's directions. Love you, Mommy. She listens to the recordings. Number two, no matter what your intentions are, you can actually go in the wrong direction in your life. Your intentions might be, I want to go take my boy to the amusement park and still make a decision, still make a goal that you want to go this way, but your life choices take you this way. And then when you get to the place where you go, oh, dang, I went the wrong way. Some people just quit. And they just go, you know what? We got to burn everything and just move. We stay in here. This is our life. We settle in with it. This is all we ever going to have. And other people go, I'm getting to that part. We turn it around. We making different choices. And we're going to head in the direction of our intentions. Amen? But how do you do that? Well, let's look at Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through 6. Proverbs chapter 3, 5 through 6 says this. Ready? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. God will not be the driver of your life. How many of us have figured that out? God does not drive you. God directs you. God will show you the way you can go, but he will not go there for you. He will go there with you. What does it mean? What does it mean to trust in the Lord with all your heart? Does it mean like to trust God really, really hard? Right? Like when you were little and you used to like tell your parents like, oh, I love you with all my heart. Right? Anybody in here got kids? You see your kids and like, oh, I squeeze you. I do that. I love my girls hard. I just, oh, darling, love you. Squeeze her head. We love hard in the Longden family. We don't mess around. I love you. That's not what it means to trust in the Lord with all your heart. What it means to trust in the Lord with all your heart is to deep in the very fibers of your gut to know that no matter what it looks like, no matter what you think, God's directions are going to get you to the place that your intentions want to take you. God will tell you how to get to where you need to go. But you got to drive the car to get there. You have to make the decision and intentionally go to where God's leading you to go. We're the drivers. Listen, it's easy to trust God with our lips, to give God lip service, right? It's easy to be like, I trust you, Lord. And then when God's like, hey, don't say that, you're like, oh no, he got it coming. Hey, put that back. You know you didn't pay for that. 2 for 1 usually. I mean, one time I got convicted about taking a pen from Publix. And that's when I knew like, man, I have come a long way. Because before I would have been like, I paid for it somewhere. You know? They got me somewhere. Whatever. I had a whole story about stealing things, but I'm not going to tell it. First-time visitors here. I wasn't born a Christian. Born again a Christian, but anyway, aren't we all? That's right. It means deep in your heart, deep in the fibers of your being, it means putting complete trust in God to lead us, direct us, and to tell us the direction that we have to go. Listen, if your life is like a map, okay, and there is a part of your life or there is a goal you have, there is something in your life, listen to me, there's something in your life you want to accomplish, there's something in your life you want to do, and I'm talking about it can be anything. I'm talking about anything. We're talking about being intentional. It could be anything. Listen, it could be that you want your marriage to look a certain way and be a real certain way. That's your intention. Or it could be, you might be like, man, I got some fitness goals. I got some things I want to do with myself. Not because I need some Gen Z TikToker to think I'm in good shape on the beach. I don't care what they think. Listen, in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to have grandchildren somehow, some way. I need to be able to put in a 12-hour day at Disney. Look, man, if my little grandson, Richard Longden III or whatever, my girls already told me they're not going to name him Rich. I'm like, can you shoot a middle name in there? Can I middle name it? Can I get Rich Weena? Like something. Richette. I don't know. Something. Put me in there. Listen, when they go, Grandpa, pick me up. I'm telling you right now, this is no joke. I literally exercise with the understanding that I need to be strong in a decade from now. In a decade, I need to be able to do this. I need to be able to be up here saying the stuff I say, moving the way I move, and not be dead after service. Right? That's my intention. What's my intention? I want to be healthy. Why? What's my goal? I want to be able to play with my grandchildren. And I want to be strong and I want to be healthy. But now ice cream exists. Donuts. You ever had a churro? Hey man, I didn't buy a couch to look at it. I like it. I enjoy my couch. I have pillows on the couch. My wife thinks they're for decoration. No, they're for me. But there's got to be something in your life that you know, I got to do this on purpose, and my intention is to get this done. But my goal is even greater. You got to know why you're doing the thing you're doing, because your intention could be, man, I want to get in shape. And the direction you go in is that your shape is more round. And you wanted it to be. Hey man, if I'm lying, I'm dying. You know what I'm saying? That's just keeping it real. Listen, I want to end up somewhere on purpose. I've got intentions and I've got a destination. And in order to get to that destination, my life has to go in that direction. No matter what your intentions. My intentions might be, I want to be healthy for my grandkids, but my actions might take me in a place where I'm not even around for them. You can have good intentions. But listen to me, where your focus goes, your lifetime flows. Where you put your focus, that 50 years of conscious awakeness that all of us got, plus the 6 months on the toilet, that 50 years is just drifting. It's just drifting. Now, you can spend it adrift or you can spend it intentionally. So you can have good intentions. I want to live a great life. I want to be successful. I want to make a lot of money. Some people, their whole goal is to make money. They didn't set the intent. They set their intention on money, but their goal wasn't aligned with their greatest values. So all they focused on was money. And by the time they got to the place where they were wealthy, there wasn't nobody left with them. It's fine to have the intention. I want to build wealth. Why do I want to build wealth? Because I want to leave my daughter something. Because I'm going to die. One day I'm going to die. And I don't want my daughters going to my lawyer going, "What dad leave us?" "A bill." Y'all ever heard of American Express? My fees. No. Right? Like your intentions and your directions and your values got to be in alignment in order to get to where you're going and be satisfied with the life you've built and created. What are intentions? What do I mean by that? Intentions are the mental states and attitudes that drive our actions. Intentions are a reflection. They reflect our truest desires, our motivations, the attitudes that we have toward a particular outcome. Our intentions are linked directly with our values and our beliefs, and they guide our decisions and our actions. Now, how many of you have heard this phrase? How many of you have heard this saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Isn't that a weird phrase? The road to hell is paved with intentions that are good. I intended good to happen, but apparently I paved a road that I really don't want to travel down. My intentions were good. It means that even if someone has good intentions, they mean well in their actions, but their decisions have unintended consequences because their decisions and their actions weren't in alignment with their devotion to God or their highest values. So no matter what they did, despite their intentions, they always ended up going in the wrong direction. Am I talking to anybody in this place? Listen, I'm telling you, I'm preaching this series to me more than anybody. I give you my word. My closest friends will tell you, I do not have it all figured out, but I know the God that does. Listen, we have to have our intentions and our decisions and the direction we take in our life in line with the will of God for our life. If your intentions aren't in alignment with values that are based on your devotion for God, it will always take you in a direction that won't satisfy you. But when you get your intentions and you put them into alignment with the values and your faith and your relationship with God, when you match the two, your intentions and your values, now your actions and your directions will always take you toward God instead of away from God. They'll always take you toward the place God called you to be instead of moving you backwards. And when you do it intentionally on purpose, you set a goal, you set a place, you know, this is where I want to go, Lord, and this is why I want to go there, and I know this is who you are. So all the decisions I make, even though my intentions are over here, every decision I make is going to be in alignment with you. And it's going to take us to the place where we want to go. Intentions that are not founded or aligned with godly or biblical values will always lead to decisions and actions that take us in the wrong direction. Has anybody experienced that in their life? I know I have. Look, you might have the intention, man, I want to be a good parent. I want my kids to love me. I want my kids to like me. And then you're like, so I'm going to let them do whatever they want. I'm going to be their friend. I'm going to be the cool parent. Look, I had cool parents. Thank God I got saved early. Because I was doing cool things with my cool parents that weren't good for me. Their intentions were, we love our boy, so we're going to let him do some stuff that we were allowed to do. And guess what? It brought me in a direction that took me away from the things of God versus toward the things of God. It doesn't matter how good our intentions. If our intentions aren't in alignment with our highest values, we'll never make decisions that will lead us in the direction that will satisfy our lives. After a while, if we travel in the wrong direction long enough in life, no matter how good our intentions, we can become discouraged. Has anybody gotten discouraged from where you were at? 1, 2, 3, 4, multiple areas of your life where you're like, dang, man, I keep ending up here. How did I end up here? How did I get here? And it's always difficult to turn your life back around and make the trek back. But if you do, if you decide, you know what, I'm going to start making the decisions with my intentions in alignment with my highest values in connection to God, I promise you, He will take you where you need to get to. Listen, you don't have to drift. If you're drifting right now in some area of your life, do you know what I'm talking about by drifting? Were you just waking up every morning, punching the clock, going home? You got some stuff you want to do in your life. You got some fitness goals. You got some finance goals. You got some relationship goals. You listen, and then you just, man, I'm so tired. I can't. One day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And the next thing you know, you're like, I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be here. Let's look at my good friend, Moses. I got his beeper number. I didn't get these gray hairs for nothing, boy. We got to look at the life of Moses, because the life of Moses is really a great example of what I'm talking about right here. Is anybody familiar with the story of Moses? When Moses was born, he was born in a time where the king wanted the Hebrew boys to be eliminated. So anytime a Hebrew boy was born, they were to bring the Hebrew boy to the Egyptians. The Egyptians would kill the baby boy because they were worried about Hebrew population in Egypt. Well, Moses' mom wasn't having none of it, and God wasn't having none of it, because God wanted Moses to be a prophet and a leader for the people of Israel. So they snuck Moses out, they put him in a little basket, they sent him down the Nile River, and who happened to find him? The Pharaoh's daughter. And Pharaoh's daughter said, look at this little Hebrew boy. I'm going to raise him. I'm going to take him, make him my own. And she adopted him. And so this little boy Moses was raised in Pharaoh's home, the leader of the leader of Egypt. And he was raised and grew up in Pharaoh's home. He became a prince of the land of Egypt. Moses, everybody knew Moses was Hebrew. Moses knew he was Hebrew. It wasn't a hidden secret. And one day, that calling, that intention that God put on his heart, that thing that God put on the inside of him, his purpose, his potential, everything inside of him was going, man, I got to check out my people, the Hebrew people, the Jewish people. They're my people, the Israelites. Why? Because that's what God put inside of him. You know that God gives you the desires of your heart? Some people think that means God's going to give you what you want. No, he puts the desire in your heart. He puts a desire in your heart. Moses had this desire. I'm supposed to care for the Hebrew people. I'm supposed to protect them. It was in his heart. It was his calling. It was his purpose. All of us have something, and that was Moses's. So in Exodus 2:11 through 14, we see what happened in Moses' life. His intentions were good, but what happened was the poor man. Let's look at Moses' life. We got to read about his life. Now it came to pass in those days when Moses had grown that he went, this is Exodus 2:11. Moses went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens. He sees the Hebrew people as slaves, and something inside him gets ignited. He's like, my people aren't supposed to be like this. We're the people of chosen people of God. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that. I love that phrase. He looked this way and that way. He was like, handle this business. I ain't mad at him. He looked this way and he that way. And when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid his body in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 Hebrew men were fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, why are you striking your companion? Why is he saying these things? Why is he killing Egyptians who are beating Hebrews? Because that was his calling and his purpose. So his intention was to be the leader and the protector of the Hebrew people. But his choices and his actions were not in alignment with God. So his decisions ended up causing him to murder somebody. So the next day he goes out, he sees a Hebrew beating up another Hebrew. He goes, you can't beat up your brethren. Why are you striking your companion? And look what the guy says. I love it. Calls him out. Don't let him get away with it. Then he said, who made you a prince and a judge over us? God did. Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me like you killed that Egyptian? So Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Surely now everybody knows I murdered an Egyptian. He knows he's in trouble. He knows at this point the decision he's made has taken him further down a road than he ever intended on going. So he leaves the land of Egypt. He leaves Egypt. Even though his intentions were good, his actions were out of alignment with God. So he leaves the land of Egypt. Just like many of us, we can waste our potential to live out our purpose when we don't have our intentions in line with our values or our devotion, and we can spend years of our life distracted. Now let's check back with our murderous friend Moses. For the next few verses, from Exodus 15 to the first verse in Exodus 3, we see that Moses fled Egypt after killing the Egyptian taskmaster, and he arrived in the land called Midian. You know what's funny about this? Darien Lake is in a land called Medina. And so when I read Midian, I was like, oh, it's my life. Just kidding. He arrived in Midian and saved the daughters of a local priest in the land of Midian from some shepherds who were harassing them. How many of you know Moses was a protector? That's what he was. That was in his heart. That's what he did. So he protects these women, and the priest, whose name was Jethro, welcomed Moses into his family. He gave him one of his daughters, Zipporah, as a wife, because that's what they did back then. There was no Tinder. And Moses lived in Midian for many years, and he had children with his wife Zipporah. And meanwhile, while he's in Midian, a place he was never supposed to be, he wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to be in Egypt, protecting the Egyptian people. But his decisions and his actions, which were out of alignment with his highest values and his devotion to God, took him to a place so that now he's living out his potential in a land he's not supposed to be in. He's in a place he doesn't want to be, but he's making the most of it. Meanwhile, the Israelites are in Egypt suffering. Let's look at Exodus 2:22 through 23, really open this up. It says this, then Zipporah, Moses' wife, bore him a son. He's making the most of his time there. And he called his son's name Gershom, for he said, listen, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. He knows he's not where he's supposed to be. He knows instead of being a prince and a leader among the people he's supposed to be a prince and a leader for, he's in a land where he's a stranger instead of a prophet. And it happened, ready, in the process of time, that the king of Egypt died. Then the children of Israel groaned because of the bondage, and they cried out, and there came up to God a cry because God knew they were in bondage. Moses was a prince of Egypt. God saved him to be a prophet and a leader of the Israelites. But because he made a decision that took him in the wrong direction, he ended up being a stranger in a foreign land. And some of us right now, you might be looking at your life and like, I feel like a stranger in a land I ain't never intend to be in. And so for the next 40 years, everybody say 40 years. 40 years, Moses drifted in the land of Midian where he was a stranger. And instead of being a prophet and a leader and a shepherd to a nation, the nation of Israel, he ends up being a shepherd to his father-in-law's sheep herd. He wasn't living up to his fullest potential. His life was drifting. And then God, hearing the cry of the Israelite people. Now, how many of you think about this? If Moses stayed in Egypt, if he didn't make a bad decision, even though his intentions were good, if he didn't make choices that took him in the wrong direction, he would have been in Egypt. He would have saw the burden his people were under, and he could have taken action there. God could have already had him in position. But instead, for 40 years, other people suffered because Moses was out of position. So I want to ask you, who in your life isn't where they need to be, isn't getting what they need from you because you're not in the position that God wants you to be in? In the process of time, the Israelites groaned because of bondage. Moses spent 40 years on the backside of the desert wasting his potential, drifting aimlessly, unproductive, not fulfilling his purpose on earth. Exodus 3:2. You look with me, it says this. This is where God steps in. I'm here to tell you, God will step in on your life. Exodus 3:2 says this. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him, Moses, in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Listen, sometimes God will get your attention. Sometimes God will say that you're drifting. He'll see that you're not in the place where you need to be in. He'll see that you're aimlessly wandering, even though you got more potential inside of you than you've ever activated. You got things in your life that you know you want to do, places you know where you want to be in the map of your life, and God will get your attention. And this time, he got his attention, and Moses looked. God shifted his focus so that his lifetime could flow in the right direction. Then Moses said this. Listen, ready? I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. So when the Lord, listen, you got to hear this. Who's with me? You with me on this? Listen, so when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, you ain't waiting for God. God's waiting for you. God's where he needs to be. He's just trying to get you to look. Turn aside. When he sees you go, Lord, I'm ready to turn and go in the other direction. So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called him from the midst of the bush. People might be saying, I'm just waiting for God to call me. I'm just waiting for God to do this. I'm just waiting for God. God's going, I'm waiting for you to turn to me. I'm waiting for you to come and turn and look at me. And when you turn and look at me, I will call you. He called Moses from the midst of the bush. Moses says, here I am. I always wondered, did he really say that? Here I am. If I hear my name coming out of a burning, flaming bush where I'm tending sheep, I'm not telling it, here I am. I'm going to say, here I go. Then the Lord said, do not draw near to this place. Take the sandals off your feet. Listen, for the place where you stand is holy ground. Moses had to ready himself. He turned in the right direction, but now he had to get himself right with God. He had to get himself in alignment with God. How many of us need to get ourselves just in alignment with God? He might be telling you, listen, where I am is holy. If you want to come up here, you got to prepare yourself. And when you prepare yourself, now listen, that doesn't mean you get everything in your life perfect. God ain't looking for perfect people. He's just looking for people to turn to him. To turn to him. And when you want to get your life in a position where you're in alignment with God, sometimes you got to go, Lord, I'm ready. Here I am. Here I am. Exodus 3, 4, and 5 says this. Or I'm sorry, Exodus 3:10. 3:10 says this. Come now, therefore, ready? And I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, that I should bring the children of Egypt out? So God said, I will certainly be with you. Notice God didn't say, I'll put you there. He didn't say, I'll take you. He said, I'll send you. He didn't say, I'll do it for you. He said, I'll be with you. I'll be with you. And when, ready? Listen, I love this part. When you have brought the people of Egypt out of Egypt, the people of Israel out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Do you see what God's telling Moses? Hey, I'll show you what direction to go in. I'll send you to do the stuff that your potential has inside of you to accomplish and to execute. I've already given you a purpose. I'll send you and I'll be with you, but I can't do it for you. You're the driver of your life. Only you can live your life on purpose. God won't live your life on purpose for you. He will send you. He will be with you, and he will help you. He will speak through you. But we have to decide, this is the direction I want to go. And we get our intentions in line with our highest values. And when we get our intention in line with our devotion, our highest values, then our decisions will take us in the direction of the goals that we set for our life on purpose. Amen? I want to give you a few steps you can take. How many of you know when we come here every week, man, I want to preach my face off. I want to deep into this Bible, give you all the spiritual stuff I can give you. But if you can't apply it to your life on Sunday afternoon or Monday morning, it's kind of pointless. Everything we do here, I want it to be spiritual and practical because that's who God is. Action steps. What's 3 things we could do to get ourselves into position and start to live our life on purpose? Anybody want to know? Thank goodness, because that's next. Number 1, identify your values. Take some time to reflect on the principles that God has to guide you. The principles that Determine how you can behave and the decisions that you should make. Write down the values that are most important to you. Find out what is important to you and why is it important to you. You might be saying, my family's important. Yeah, but why? Why are they important? My career's important. Yeah, but why? My marriage important. But why? My health's important. But why? You got to know why. Why is it a value? Number 2, set purposeful goals. Once you have a clear set of your values, use those values to set goals that are meaningful and purposeful. And make sure your goals are specific, measurable, time-bound, that they align with your overall vision for your life. That's what this whole series is about. We're going to unpack more of this. We're going to get into more of this and how we can do this in our lives so that we can have a life that we point back to and we can say to ourselves, I am the driver and not a drifter. Number 3, take intentional action. Develop a clear direction for your life by making decisions that are in line with your values and your goals. All the directions you take, everything you do, what you choose to do, the direction you go in when you take intentional action, make sure it's in alignment with your values. Make sure it's in alignment with your potential and your purpose. Take deliberate actions toward those goals and stay committed to living a life on purpose, a purpose-filled life. And even though it might be difficult and challenging, even though there's distractions, use your intentions to stay focused and motivated on what truly matters to you the most. And not only you'll be blessed, but the people whose God has called you to will be blessed when you live a life on purpose. Now listen, today, I know some of you are...
We hope you enjoyed this message, and we want to invite you to see us in person. Service starts at 10 a.m. every Sunday at 12253 Lake Nona Gateway Road inside Village Park Elementary School. For more details about times and location, please visit our website at www.eastcoastbelievers.org. If you made a decision for Christ today, we would love to connect with you for some exciting next steps. Please text EC Saved to 94,000 so we can connect with you and help you with your next exciting steps. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome home.